stamping friends, it's Terry Gaines. I'm excited to share a new fun fold card with you that has 3 layers of images that will flatten to fit into an envelope and will stand to fit on a desk. There are so many possibilities with this fun fold. If you watch to the end of my video, I have 4 additional projects showing different sizes and different product. For the sample that I show you all the assembly tips, I'm going to use the Peaceful Cabin Bundle, which is the stamp set and the cabin dies, which are bundled together for a 10% savings. I have stamped everything ahead of time, and I've used the Stamparatus to stamp, and I've used the dies to cut out. In the comment section of the video and the comment on the blog, I'm going to reference you to a video where I assembled this fun fold card and show you how I use the Stamparatus to stamp all those images. I am going to give you a little bit of detail on the different layers and how I cut them out, but reference that other video for how I stamped. So the front layer is 5.5 by 2 1/4. I cut that out with the cabin dies. I lined the edge of the die to the left side and put the chimney parallel to the top part of the cardstock, ran that through my die cutting machine, and this is what my results were. And I used the Stamparatus to stamp the cabin. So that's the front layer. For the middle layer, the cardstock is 5.5 by 3.5. I took the tree dies, lined the edge, the left edge up to the edge of the cardstock, put the top of the die to the top of the cardstock, ran that through die cutting machine, and the results of that would be giving me an image like this that I can stamp with the Stamparatus and have the middle layer. The back layer is with a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 by 4. On this one, I moved the tree die over to about 1/2 inch on the right side before the first tree was cut, and then the top tree lined up to the edge here and ran that through the die cutting machine, and then I got an image like this. Then what I did was I took my paper snips and I took and just went down here and just went up to this intersection to cut out that portion. Used the Stamparatus to ink up the trees and stamp the trees, and this would be the back layer. Now there's an option to add the back card to this project, and for that are the optional layers here. The Designer Series paper is 5 3/8 by 3.5, and that is going to be layered onto the cardstock for the back. And the cardstock for the back is 5.5 by 4 1/4. What I'm going to do, I'm going to assemble that right now. Just use your regular double-sided adhesive. I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal. And we're not going to be concerned about the bottom part, but we're going to look for equal spacing on the 2 sides and the top. And there's about a 1/16 of an inch spacing here. We're not worried about the bottom because that's going to be covered up, so nobody's going to notice that we didn't go all the way down right here. There is another option for another layer on the back, so this will be where our scene is. This is where you would sign your card. So you can put a rectangle back here, you can do various things. I have an optional cardstock layer that is 5.5 by 4 1/4. I did cut that out with the tree die. I did stamp that with the Stamparatus and then stamped a sentiment on there. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the back here. So this will be an option for the back part of this layered card. So just make sure that this is the top. So this will be the back. So what I'm going to do, this is actually the very same width. So I'm going to bring in the Simply Scoring. What I like about the Simply Scoring tool, and also works true with the Stamparatus, you've got like a little wall here in the corner. You can put your cardstock up. My adhesive is on here, but what I can do is I can lift it up without having the adhesive touch, follow this top wall. When I hit that side wall, bring it down. That helps me get equal spacing to get that adhered. So that is the optional back layer. So we have everything stamped and we're ready to do the base cardstock. So the base cardstock for my sample was white cardstock. I would suggest that it is the thick basic white, and that size is 4 3/4 by 5 1/2. For video purposes, I'm going to use basic gray because it will show up better when I show the adhesive on here. So this is 4 3/4 by 5 1/2. It has many scoring lines. So what we want to do is score this at 3/8, and that's along the 4 3/4 inch section. So at 3/8, then at 7/8, then at 1 3/8, then at 1 7/8, then at 2 7/8, then at 3 3/8, at 3 7/8, and the last one is 4 3/8. So I've got those scored. Now what I'm going to do is move some of this out of the way. We're done with this. We'll just leave our pieces that we want for assembly in here. We need a bone folder. It's important that we make all of these creases nice and crisp. So a bone folder works great, and they're all going to be a mountain fold. So on each one of these folds, we're going to take a bone folder and crease this. As I mentioned, I have additional samples to share with you. You are going to love the results of this project. This idea was inspired by a home decor wooden item that I saw at a gift shop. And I'm like, oh, I bet we can make that out of cardstock. So this is how I came up with this idea. So now we have all of these going mountain folds. Our goal is to create 2 squares that are equal in size, that will allow the cardstock to flatten this way and flatten the other way. So to do that, we're going to open this up where we have all the creases to be mountain folds as our front. We're going to take some tear and tape. Tear and tape is the perfect adhesive for this. It needs to be a strong adhesive. And on the outside 2 panels, we're going to apply the tear and tape. And this is why I'm using the basic gray cardstock, because the white does not show up the backing very well. So I want you to, if you repeat this project, and I think you're going to love it and want to make some of these, you're going to put a strong adhesive. I suggest tear and tape. It works best if your adhesive is something with a backing on it, so you can apply it and not have it adhere accidentally to the wrong place. So now what we need to do, as I mentioned, have 2 squares. So we're going to turn this over and take the first 2 panels, so the end panel and the next one, and have those facing upward. Then you're going to take the backing off, and the take your pick tool works great for that. Get the backing off, and now at this very next fold score line, we're going to fold that up on top of that adhesive, and that's going to create a square that will flatten in both directions. Now we need to repeat that for this side. So take those first panel 1 and 2 and have them facing up. Lay it flat, take the backing off. While you keep this flat, make sure that it's not folded down. Open this up so we have the next fold. When this turns over, it's going to adhere to that bottom base. Fold that over. Now we have 2 cylinders that are perfect in shape, will flatten in either direction. And now they will actually even open up so we can adhere. Our center layer will be in there, our middle layer here, a back and a front. So let's start with the center or the middle layer. So now I'm going to suggest 2 strips of tear and tape. I love the tear and tape because you can tear it. You don't have to get it right to the edge. So it's fine if it's not to the edge. So now we have 2 pieces of tear and tape, and the middle layer is this grouping of trees. They're going to be adhered to the middle. I'm going to suggest bringing in simply scoring, or the edge of your Stamparatus also has an edge. So what I'm going to suggest is bring this in for the assembly of this. So I'm going to take the backing piece off of just 1 piece here, and I'm actually going to turn this and use this corner here, And the reason I'm going to bring this in here is I'm going to push the base all the way to this edge. That allows me to bring this all the way to that edge and let it fall and hit that adhesive. Then I can take this backing off, and now I can flatten that and bring that. That adheres our center panel right to the center here. It will flatten this direction and flatten this direction. So that works great for adhering those two together. So now what we want to do is put adhesive on this front edge, and I'm going to put adhesive right here. Take the backing off, and we're going to put this on the front. So my suggestion is to lay this flat. So hopefully so we got the center piece in. Now we're going to put the front piece on. We want it flush to the bottom and flush to here. So I'm going to lay it flat so my fold is here. My panel with the adhesive on is right on the top. That allows me to bring this. I'm holding this up so I don't hit the adhesive, run it along the edge. When I hit the wall, I can bring it down. That helps me get all of that equally spaced there. So we have the front and the back on, or the front and the middle on. Now we need to do the back. So the back is already assembled for us, and let me rephrase that. This portion is already assembled. We're going to do this optional piece last. This is our back panel. So that's going to be adhered to this back piece. So what we want to do is put some adhesive on that piece. We're going to place that down. We're going to, you got to make sure you have no exposed adhesive. So I went a little bit over the edge here. That should be okay. So now this is the back. We're going to place this flat, put it into the corner. So we have this flush to this edge, flush to that edge. Take this backing, run it along this edge. When we hit that wall, then we can bring that down, and this will be a fun fold card that would stand. You could turn this over and stamp a sentiment. We're going to put that optional back piece on, which is going to adhere these two together and have a card like this. So this is the optional add-on. So to do that, we added an extra step. We could have adhered this all together, but I wanted you to see that optional piece. So now I'm going to take this, and it's important that your adhesive goes on this piece, not on this piece, because we don't want any exposed adhesive, and we wouldn't know exactly where to place it here. So we're going to place this back in here. We're going to put this back along the edge, let it fall into place. And now we have our backing on our card. We have a decorative back to the card, and it will stand on a mantle. So this is a fun fold card. As I mentioned, that was inspired by a home decor piece. And I have a couple samples to share with you. The first sample, I actually have a tip to share with you too. If you're making more than one of those cards for this card, the base cardstock, that is 4 3/4 by 5 1/2, keep it 11 by 4 3/4, do all your scoring, and then cut it in half so you can score 2 of those at the very same time. So the piece that was inspired at the gift shop was similar to this. It was a piece of wood that had a slit cut with some different images, and it was a longer piece. So what I thought we could do is use this idea and create this card. And this card will also lay flat to fit into an envelope. And this is actually for this size envelope. It will fit in. What I did was I took this die, and I should have brought this sample in first. This is the first one I made. I made it with one of the tree dies. Instead of adding a front layer and a back layer, I just have that middle layer. I used a sentiment here, which is actually the mini messages stamp set and the coordinating die. There are several dies that works perfect for these projects and the sentiments. So what I did was I put that on with mini dimensionals. So I don't have a front layer, and on the back layer I have this strip that you could use for signing the card, or you could also put a piece underneath here that you could sign the card, because when you fold the card, it's going to fold up like this and go into the envelope. My suggestion, if you have an open piece like this, to put an extra piece of cardstock in your envelope, just so you have some support for those trees so they don't get bent in the mail. So here is this idea, and bear with me, I wasn't sure how to show this on a video, and I will have pictures on my blog. So when I did this size, for this size envelope, I have 2 of these die cutouts, and what I did was I cut apart one of these trees and then just have that overlaid. And then these dies are from the Snow Globe dies, which is actually a retired product, and I put those on the front, and then I added a panel to cover those up. And this is another sentiment from the Many Messages stamp set. And here's some additional sentiments that would also work good for fun cards like this. I have this card done with the Crumb Cake cardstock and green and brown card or ink here. So this is a fun fold. The last project I have to share is using the Birthday Chicks stamp set, and this is actually just a variety of different layers. So I will share the max dimensions for a card oriented this direction versus one the orientation is this direction. So hopefully this all made sense. This video I was unsure how to share all these fun things with you on a video. And as I mentioned, this card is done slightly different. We have a layer here and a middle layer like a card front, and then you can add elements here. So just a fun fold card that is great. And like I said, it's almost like a home decor piece. I hope you enjoyed this video. Look in the comment section for a direct link to my blog post where you can find photos, and then I will have a PDF that you can download for the dimensions on this card. I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel, then click the red box under the video to subscribe, then click the bell to be notified when I upload new videos. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this project. Take care and happy creating.